Feel that tightness across your shoulders, that settled weight behind your eyes, that place in your chest, just below the sternum, where something old has been sitting for so long that most days you don't even notice it's there anymore. That is what it feels like to have been misread by the people who were supposed to know you best. Your family. The ones who shared your table, your walls, your earliest memories of who you were. And somehow, they looked at you and didn't quite see you. They saw sensitivity and called it weakness. They saw depth and called it difficulty. They saw something that didn't fit their frame, and instead of expanding the frame, they asked you to shrink. And you have been carrying a quiet question ever since. Was it me? Was I actually the problem? Chosen one, I want to answer that question today, fully, without flinching. But first I need to tell you something that matters for right now, for this moment, for this season you are standing in. The blindfolds are off, not yours, theirs. Something is shifting in the people around you. Something in the eyes that once looked past you is beginning to see. Not because you explained yourself better, not because you finally became someone easier to love, but because you let yourself become undeniable, and undeniable things cannot stay invisible forever. I want to show you why this happens, what is taking place in the spiritual and scientific dimensions of this shift, and most importantly, who you need to be as you step into being fully seen. Because receiving recognition well is its own kind of preparation, and you are ready. Before we go any deeper, I want to ask something of you. Stay with me through this entire message, because by the time we are done today, you are going to understand the real reason your family struggled to see what was in you, and it is not what most people assume. You are going to recognize the exact signs that the shift has already started, even if no one has spoken a word out loud yet. You are going to hear the truth about who you actually are in a way that I believe will change how you carry yourself from this day forward. Stay. This is worth your full attention. There is something that happens in certain families. And if you have ever felt like the odd one, the different one, the one who seemed to be speaking a language no one else in the house quite understood, I want to explain why. Not to excuse what was done, not to smooth over what hurt, but to help you finally see the mechanism behind it. Because when you see the mechanism, the wound stops feeling personal. Think about a family dinner, maybe yours. The conversation moves around the table, and everyone seems to fit into it. Everyone except you. You are listening, and you are seeing things in the room that no one else seems to notice. You feel the tension beneath the words, the sadness behind the laugh, the question that no one is brave enough to ask. And instead of that being recognized as a gift, it gets called overthinking. Or you get called sensitive, or too much, or difficult. Here is what was actually happening. Every family system has a particular way of operating, a set of beliefs, a ceiling of what is possible, a collection of inherited fears that get passed from one generation to the next without anyone ever choosing them. And when someone is born into that system who is wired differently, who is built to question and expand and feel more deeply, the system does not always celebrate that. Often, it pushes back. Not because the system is evil, but because what is unfamiliar can feel threatening to a structure that has built its stability around a very particular kind of normal. You were not normal to them. And I mean that as the most profound compliment I can offer. You were not wrong. You were not broken. You were operating at a different frequency than the one your family had learned to recognize. And here is what I want you to hold gently, because it matters. Most of the people who looked past you were not doing it out of cruelty. They were doing it out of limitation. There is a difference between those two things. And the day you feel that difference in your body is the day a great weight begins to lift. This is not a new story, chosen one. This pattern, the gifted one misread by the people closest to them, is one of the oldest patterns in human history. You find it everywhere you look. You find it in the story of a young man named Joseph, who had dreams so large his own brothers could not hold them. They did not see a leader. They did not see the one who would one day sustain entire nations through their worst season. They saw a dreamer who needed to be quieted, and so they quieted him. And yet, there is also an ancient wisdom that says a prophet is not honored in their hometown. The people who watch you grow up, who see you in the ordinary and unguarded moments, who know what you looked like before you came into yourself, those people sometimes have the hardest time seeing what you carry. Not because they are unkind, but because familiarity can make us stop looking. We think we already know what we are seeing, and so we stop actually seeing it at all. There is even a concept in psychology that describes something similar inside family systems. Sometimes the person who is most awake in the family, the one who feels things most deeply and sees most clearly, ends up carrying the label of the difficult one, the sensitive one, the one who complicates everything, not because they are the problem, but because they are the one disrupting a system that has been operating in a particular kind of sleep. And systems do not always thank the ones who wake them up. You are waking something up. You have been waking something up for a long time. And the people around you did not always know how to receive that. But something is changing now. And before I tell you what is changing, I need to show you one more piece of this. Because what your family thought they saw in you was not just inaccurate. It was a distortion of something real. Every label that was placed on you in that house, think of it now, whatever word or phrase they used most often to describe what you were doing wrong, underneath that label was a gift they did not have the language for. They saw sensitivity. What they were actually seeing was a depth of feeling that allows you to go places most people cannot go, to understand pain that others walk past, to connect with people in ways that change them, because you are willing to actually feel what they are feeling, instead of standing at a safe distance from it. They saw difficulty. What they were actually seeing was a refusal to be dishonest, a kind of integrity that could not perform contentment it did not feel, could not pretend to agree when something in you knew it was not right. They saw the dreamer, the one with too many ideas, the one who could never just settle and be practical. What they were actually seeing was someone designed to build something that does not exist yet. Someone carrying a vision that was simply too large for the room they were standing in at the time. The blindfold was never about you. It was about what they were afraid to see if they looked too clearly, because if they saw you fully, they might have had to reckon with something in themselves. And that is a kind of courage that not everyone has been prepared for. So they named what made them uncomfortable. And for years, you carried those names as though they were true. They were not true. Now, I want to show you something that connects everything I have just said in a way that stopped me when I first encountered it. Because the gap between the frequency you carry and the frequency your family was tuned to is not just a spiritual concept. Neuroscience has been studying this for decades. Researchers have identified something called gamma brainwaves as the highest functioning brainwave pattern in the human brain. It is the wave associated with rapid insight, deep intuition, creativity, the kind of effortless clarity where the right answer arrives before you even finish formulating the question. Scientists at institutions including MIT, Harvard, Princeton, and Stanford have studied this pattern extensively. And here is what they found. Children in their earliest years carry it naturally. That hyper-connected, feeling everything, seeing everything, learning so fast state that children live in. That is gamma at work. The wonder, the questions, the vision that has not yet been told it is impractical. But starting around age 7, something begins to happen. Dr. Robert Lake, a neuroscientist with 34 years of research behind him, calls it the decline effect. The educational systems, the social conditioning, the pressure to conform and sit still and stop asking so many questions and please just calm down, all of that begins to suppress gamma activity. Not completely, but significantly. And when I heard that, I thought of every chosen one who was told to be more realistic, to stop dreaming so loudly, to make themselves smaller so the room could stay comfortable. The system did not just happen to you and your family, it happened to your brain. What Dr. Lake developed, after decades of study, is a 7-minute audio track called The Genius Song. It uses brain entrainment technology, meaning the frequencies embedded in the sound literally guide the brain back toward its natural gamma state. You put on headphones, you close your eyes, you listen for 7 minutes. That is it. No years of meditation practice, no learning a new technique, no waking up before dawn. Just 7 minutes, and the science does the rest. Now let me be honest with you about what this kind of technology usually costs. Biofeedback therapy, which does something similar by guiding the brain into optimal states, runs about $300 per session. Home devices that replicate this for personal use can cost $7,000 or more. Traditional meditation, which can eventually produce some of these effects, takes years of consistent daily practice before most people notice meaningful results. Dr. Lake originally priced the Genius Song at $49, which is already remarkable when you understand what it replaces. But because he wanted this to reach the people who actually need it, not just those with access to premium alternatives, he has made it available to those watching videos like this one for $39. You will not find that price on Amazon, on Spotify, or anywhere else online. It is only available through the link in the description and the pinned comment below this video. With that $39, you also receive 4 additional resources at no extra charge. An audio track to support children's focus and confidence. The original book that inspired the film The Secret, the real version, which sells for $20 on its own. A guided visualization across 4 areas of your life. And a practical infographic of the 5 most important habits for building the future you are meant for. And if it does not work for you, there is a complete money-back guarantee. No forms, no explanation needed. One thing I need to say clearly, there are counterfeit versions circulating online, sites that use the name but do not contain the actual brain entrainment technology. They are ordinary audio files. They will not do what the real thing does. The only way to ensure you are receiving the genuine product with the full technology, all 4 bonuses, and the guarantee intact is through the link in the description and the pinned comment below. Please do not search for it elsewhere. If you feel called to explore it, the link is there. No pressure, just available. Now, let me show you what is actually shifting in the world around you right now. The signs that someone's perception of you is changing are rarely loud. They are not usually a formal conversation. They are not always an apology. Most of the time they are quieter than that. And if you do not know what to look for, you might walk right past them. The first sign is the silence that holds respect. There used to be a particular kind of silence when you said something that went against the grain in your family. The silence that was preparing to push back, to dismiss, to redirect the conversation to safer ground. But lately that silence feels different. It holds, it waits. It is the silence of someone who is no longer certain they have the better answer. The second sign is the question that comes with genuine curiosity. Someone in your family has begun asking about your life in a way that carries actual interest instead of skepticism. They are not asking to challenge you. They are asking because something in them is beginning to wonder if they missed something. The third sign is the look. You will know it when you see it. It comes across the table or across the room, and it lingers a beat longer than it used to. It is not quite sure of itself. It is the look of someone in the middle of reconsidering. The fourth sign is the one that might catch you off guard. Someone comes to you now for your perspective, for your comfort, for your read on something they are going through. The same person who once made you feel like your perspective was not to be trusted is quietly seeking it. And the fifth sign is the argument that does not happen. A conversation arises that a year ago would have turned into conflict. But this time, it ends differently. Someone holds back. Someone concedes. Someone leaves space they would not have left before. Not every family will show all of these. Some will show it with words, some will show it with what they stop saying. But I want you to know that these shifts are real, and they are already happening for many of you. And now I want to tell you about the shift that matters even more than what they are doing. Because chosen one, something has been changing in you at the same time. You stopped rehearsing conversations with them in your head. Those long internal dialogues where you imagined explaining yourself one more time and finally being understood. They are quieter now, not because you gave up, because something in you stopped needing the rehearsal. Their opinion of your next step no longer determines whether you take it. You might still feel something when they weigh in. You are human, and they are family, but their verdict is no longer the deciding vote. You can sit in the same room now without disappearing into yourself. Something in you stays present in a way it could not always manage before. And here is one that might surprise you. You are beginning to feel something like grief when you think about those years. Not anger, just a quiet sadness. And that movement from anger into grief is actually a sign of healing. Anger protects, grief processes, and when grief arrives, it means something in you has decided that it is finally safe enough to feel the real thing. You are also beginning to have compassion for what made them the way they are. You are starting to see the fears they inherited, the ceilings they never questioned, the love that was real even when it was poorly expressed. You are not excusing the wound. You are simply refusing to let it be the whole story. And perhaps the deepest shift of all, you want them to see you. Of course you do. That is human, and it is right. But you no longer need them to. That shift, chosen one, is everything. Because when the need dissolves, but the desire remains, you are no longer waiting at a door. You are already inside the house of your own life. But there is something I have not yet told you, something that explains why this shift is arriving right now, in this season, at this particular point in your journey. And that truth goes deeper than anything I have shared with you so far. There are no accidents in the timing of recognition. I want to say that again, because I think it is the part most people move past too quickly. The timing of when people begin to see you clearly is not random. It is not luck. It is not entirely about something they simply decided to do differently one day. It follows a principle. Recognition follows transformation, not the other way around. Think about Joseph again. His brothers did not come to see him clearly when he was in the pit. They did not see him in Potiphar's house. They did not even see him when he was interpreting dreams in prison with nothing but faithfulness and time on his side. The moment of recognition came when Joseph stood in the full authority of who he had become, when there was so much of him present in the room that there was simply no other response available, no other way to react to what was standing in front of them. You cannot force that kind of seeing. You cannot argue someone into it or perform your way into it. But when you become fully yourself, and I mean fully, without the constant background negotiation of how much of you is safe to bring into the room, something shifts, not just in you, in the atmosphere around you. And people who were blind to you begin to look. That is what is happening now. It is not a coincidence that this shift in your family is arriving at this particular moment in your journey. Something in you became undeniable. And undeniable things cannot stay invisible forever. But I want to talk about the thing that could interrupt this, because there is one pattern I see more often than any other that causes a chosen one to miss the very recognition they spent years waiting for. And it lives entirely on the inside. It is the part of you that has been braced for so long it does not know how to unclench. Because when you have been hurt inside your family, when the place that was supposed to be safe turned out to have edges, you learn to protect yourself. And one of the ways you protect yourself is by refusing to let good things from those people feel real. If they extend something kind, something different, you hold it at arm's length. You wait for it to be taken back. You brace for the part where it goes back to how it was. And that bracing was necessary once. I want to honor that. It served you. It kept you upright in seasons when the ground underneath you was not safe. But here is what armor does that we do not always talk about. It keeps out cold and it keeps out warmth in equal measure. It protects you from the wound and it also protects you from the healing, both at the same time, without distinguishing between them. So I want to ask you to do something, not dramatic, not complicated, something you can do right where you are, without moving. Notice, just notice, if there is a place in your body right now that is still holding on, that still has a fist closed around the old story, the story that says the recognition is not real, that they will return to what they were, that you are safer not believing any of this. Notice it. Do not fight it. Just let it become visible to you, the way you might notice a sound in a quiet room that you had simply stopped hearing. And then, if you can, let that one place release just slightly, not throwing away your discernment, not pretending the past did not happen, just unclenching by a fraction, just enough to let something new come through. That is the only movement required of you right now, because what this season is asking of you is not bravery in the way we usually think of it. It is not grand declarations or formal confrontations. It is the smaller and in some ways harder courage of letting yourself receive what has been arriving, and what is arriving is far greater than anything I have yet described to you. Here is the truth that this entire message has been building toward. The recognition you waited for from your family was never the source of your worth. It was always the reflection. Chosen one. Somewhere along the way, perhaps completely without knowing it, most people who have been hurt by family carry a quiet arrangement inside themselves. The arrangement goes something like this. When they finally see me, then I will be able to fully believe it. When they acknowledge what I carry, then I will allow myself to inhabit it completely. When the people who knew me before I came into myself recognize who I have become, then I will stop waiting. And that arrangement is understandable. Of course it is. These are the people who shaped your earliest understanding of what you were worth. Of course their opinions settled deep, but here is what I want you to see. Everything I have shown you today, the frequency gap, the pattern across history, the signs of a shifting room, the changes happening in you, all of it has been pointing to this one thing. The shift in your family is not creating your value. It is confirming something that was always already true. The blindfolds are off. Yes, theirs. But the real miracle, the one that made all of this possible, is that yours came off first. You stopped seeing yourself through their lens. Maybe slowly, maybe imperfectly. Maybe there are still moments where the old voice gets loud again. But at a fundamental level, something in you made a decision. It decided that your worth was not a committee vote, that your gifts did not require unanimous approval, that the calling on your life did not need to be verified by the people who happened to be in the room when you were small. And the moment that decision settled into you, the room around you began to change. You are a cycle breaker. I want you to hear that not as a compliment, but as a description. You are the person in your family line who does not pass forward what was handed to them. Not through fighting it, not through declaring war on what came before, but simply by living differently, by refusing, again and again, to replicate the patterns that hurt you, by choosing to be more truthful with yourself than the people before you were equipped to be. Every family that produces someone like you is being given something. The chance to evolve. The chance to see something in themselves through watching you that they could not have seen any other way. The discomfort they felt around you was not a verdict on your character. It was the discomfort of a system being asked to grow beyond what it had always been. I say this not to make you feel above your family. I say it so that you can finally stop interpreting their struggle to see you as evidence that you were not worth seeing. You are the wounded healer. The wound that your family gave you did not simply hurt you, it also equipped you. The specific way you were misread, the particular labels they placed, the silence that fell where affirmation should have been, those things produced in you a kind of understanding that cannot be taught in any classroom or handed down through any book. You know what it feels like to be overlooked, to be reduced, to carry something real with no one around to name it for you. And that knowing is now the thing that allows you to walk into rooms and see people who are not being seen and give them the very thing you needed most and did not receive. The wound became the instrument. You are the seer. You saw things in that house that no one named. The undercurrents. The love that was real but expressed in broken ways. The fears hiding behind the criticism. The grief behind the anger. The people who were hurting and projecting that hurt onto the nearest available person, which was often you. You saw all of it, and you were told that your seeing was the problem. It was not. It was a gift. A painful one in that season, but a gift. And now, you are beginning to use it the way it was always meant to be used. To bring light into dark spaces instead of simply absorbing the dark. You are the truth carrier. Your discomfort in spaces of performance, your inability to pretend that things were fine when they were not, your restlessness under ceilings that were too low, none of that was a flaw. It was integrity. The kind of integrity that gets you called difficult before it gets you called the one who changed things. These are not identities you earn. You are not being assigned these things today because you have finally become worthy of them. You are hearing them named because they have always been true, and you are finally in a season where you can receive them without immediately handing them back. You held on. Through the dinners where you felt invisible. Through the conversations where your name was said in a tone that made you smaller. Through the seasons where you wondered if maybe they were right about you after all. Through every moment you wanted to disappear and chose, even quietly, even imperfectly, to stay. You held on, and now they see, not because you performed for them, not because you finally explained yourself well enough, not because you won some argument or earned some approval, but because you became too fully real, too completely yourself for any other response to make sense. That is not luck. That is not coincidence. That is who you have been becoming through every hard thing you walked through. And it is who you now get to be, fully. Without apology, without shrinking, without waiting for a permission that was never required. There are 3 things I want to leave you with before we move into our final sacred moment together. The first is this: stop editing yourself for the room, not with coldness, not with distance designed to punish, but with the genuine love of showing up as the full version of yourself. When you make yourself smaller to keep them comfortable, you deny them the chance to rise to meet what is actually in the room. Let them rise. You showing up fully is an act of love, even if it does not always feel like one in the moment. The second is this: when the recognition comes, let it land. You have spent a long time protecting yourself from the pain of not being seen. Now the seeing is beginning to arrive, and the impulse will be to hold it at arm's length, to wait for it to be taken back. I am asking you to practice something different, not naivety, but the willingness to actually receive what is being offered, to let it move through you, instead of standing outside it watching. And the third is this: hold compassion for what made them who they are, not to rewrite history, not to excuse what happened, but because compassion frees you. It takes the definition of who you are out of the hands of those who were not equipped to hold it, and it places it back where it has always belonged, with you, with the source that made you, with the calling that has been on your life since before any of them gave you a name. Now, let us seal what has been spoken. Source, God, the divine presence that holds every chosen one in this moment, I want to begin with gratitude. Thank you for the presence that was there in every season of being unseen. Thank you for the nights that were long and did not offer comfort from the places where comfort should have come. Thank you for every moment of sustaining that went unnamed and unwitnessed by anyone but you. Thank you for the version of this person who held on when it would have been so much easier to let go. And I want to acknowledge what you have seen. You saw every table where this chosen one sat and felt invisible. You saw every conversation where their name was spoken in a tone that made them smaller. You saw the weight that was carried in silence, the questions held in the dark, the small faithfulnesses that no one applauded and no one acknowledged. You saw every season of choosing not to disappear, All of it was witnessed, none of it was missed. Now we release. We release the belief that said, I was the problem. Release. We release the old story that said, their inability to see me was evidence that I was not worth seeing. Release. We release the version of ourselves that learned to shrink before entering the room, the edited self, the performed self, the one who apologized for existing in full. Release. We release the long waiting at a door for a permission that was never required. Release. We release the bitterness that served us once and no longer serves what we are becoming. Release. We release the ceiling placed over our own perception of our potential by people who could not yet see beyond their own. Release. We release the fear that the good things will be taken back. The armor built for a season that is now ending. Release. Now we activate. We call forth the full expression of who this chosen one is, the cycle breaker, the wounded healer, the seer, the truth carrier. We activate divine connections in this new season, the people who see clearly and choose accordingly, who extend without agenda and receive without conditions. We open the doors that have been held shut by old unworthiness, and we step through them, upright and unhurried. We align provision with purpose, and purpose with identity, and identity with the truth that was always already there before any of this began. We cover what is rising. We guard what is being built from premature exposure. We guard it from the voices that will try to call it back into smallness. We guard it from the old internal reflex of handing back what has just been offered. What has been lifted today, let nothing pull it back down. Now we declare, I am seen. Not because they finally looked, but because I stopped hiding. I am real. The depth, the sensitivity, the vision, the fire that would not go out, all of it is real and all of it is mine. I am the one who did not disappear. I am the pattern that ends here. I am the cycle that does not continue. I am the voice that speaks what others feel and cannot name. I am the healer who knows the wound from the inside. I am the seer who will not pretend not to see. I am chosen. I was chosen before I was shaped. I was chosen before I was named. I was chosen before a single person in that house looked at me and did not understand what they were seeing. It is done. It is sealed. We receive it. Breathe. And so it is. If this message found you today, I want to know. Type the word "seen" in the comments right now. Just that one word. It tells me this reached you, and it tells the next person scrolling past that they are not alone in what they have been carrying. If you know a chosen one who is still waiting to be seen by their family, share this with them, because no one should walk this road without hearing it said clearly, you were never the problem, you were always the promise. And if you want to explore the 7-minute practice I mentioned, the One Doctor, Robert Lake developed to reactivate the natural genius frequency that life had quietly turned down. The link is in the description and in the pinned comment below. It is there for those who feel called to it. No pressure. Just available. Take care of yourself, chosen one. You are seen.